Welcome to the second lesson in Module 2 of our Cybersecurity course. This course is presented to you by TCSC London Academy and the instructor Mr. Isam Ifarujain. This lesson explains some forms of known cyber threats. We will cover the following: malware, phishing, social engineering, denial of service, DOS, attacks. Let's start with the first threat. Malware. Malware is a software designed to harm devices or networks. The primary purpose of malware is to obtain money, or in some cases, an intelligence advantage that can be used against a person, an organization, or a nation. There are many types of malware. Some of the most common malware attacks today include viruses that infect and spread, worms that replicate themselves, spywares used to gather information, and ransomware that holds our data hostage until we pay a hefty price. Let's start with viruses. A virus is a malicious code written to interfere with computer operations and cause damage to data and software. A virus needs to be initiated by a user, a threat actor, who transmits the virus via a malicious attachment or file download. When someone opens the malicious attachment or download, the virus hides itself in other files in the now infected system. When the infected files are opened, it allows the virus to insert its own code to damage and/or destroy data in the system. Another form of malware attacks is worms. Worms are a type of malware that can duplicate and spread itself across systems on its own. In contrast to a virus, a worm does not need to be downloaded by a user. Instead, it self-replicates and spreads from an already infected computer to other devices on the same network. Third type of attacks is ransomware. Ransomware is a malicious attack where threat actors encrypt an organization's data and demand payment to restore access. Ransomware have been commonly used to attack several victims in various activity fields. The damages were significant, especially in sectors such as healthcare, power grid systems, and banks. Spywares. A spyware is another form of malware that's used to gather and sell information without consent. Spyware can be used to access remote devices. This allows threat actors to collect personal data, such as private emails, texts, voice and image recordings, and financial details of targeted victims. Remember, viruses, worms, ransomware and spyware are all types of the same category, which is malwares. Let's move to another category of attacks: phishing. Phishing is the use of digital communications to trick people into revealing sensitive data or deploying malicious software. An example of phishing would be a deceptive email or message that tricks us into revealing sensitive information or clicking on malicious links. Some of the most common types of phishing attacks today include 1. Business email compromise, BEC. A threat actor sends an email that seems to be from a known source to make a legitimate request for information, in order to obtain a financial advantage. This threat actor may trick an internal employee and get sensitive data that he can later use to cause damage to the company or organization. 2. Spear phishing. A malicious email attack that targets a specific user or group of users. The email seems to originate from a trusted source, but is intended to trick this group of users to trigger an action that will compromise the security. 3. Whaling. This is a form of spear phishing. Threat actors target company executives to gain access to sensitive data. This type of attacks target senior executives or managing partners because they have access to more sensitive and valuable data compared to the other employees. 4. Phishing. The exploitation of electronic voice communication to obtain sensitive information or to impersonate a known source. Nowadays, especially with the rise of artificial intelligence and deepfake technologies, it is too easy to impersonate any person. Threat actors can imitate and reproduce the voice, and even videos for any world leader or public figure in order to trick their victims and get access to their data. 5. Smishing. The use of text messages to trick users in order to obtain sensitive information or to impersonate a known source. In this type of attacks, victims receive an SMS announcing that they won in some sort of lottery or contest, they are tricked to access a malicious link, or they asked simply to call a number or fill a form to get their sensitive data. So far we discussed malwares and phishing attacks. Let's move to another category called social engineering. Social engineering is a manipulation technique that exploits human error to gain private information, access, or valuables. Human error is usually a result of trusting someone without question. It's the mission of a threat actor, acting as a social engineer, to create an environment of false trust and lies to exploit as many people as possible. Social engineering principles. Social engineering is incredibly effective. This is because people are generally trusting and conditioned to respect authority. The number of social engineering attacks is increasing with every new social media application that allows public access to people's data. Although sharing personal data such as your location or photos can be convenient, it's also a risk. Some of the most common types of social engineering attacks today include 1. Social media phishing. A threat actor collects detailed information about their target from social media sites. Then, they initiate an attack. An example of such practice is known as OSINT or open source intelligence. We will cover in detail this practice in a separate course. 2. Hole attack. A threat actor attacks a website frequently visited by a specific group of users. 3. USB baiting. A threat actor strategically leaves a malware USB stick for an employee to find and install, to unknowingly infect a network. You should never plug an USB stick or a hard drive that you don't know from where it comes. 4. Physical social engineering. A threat actor impersonates an employee, customer, or vendor to obtain unauthorized access to a physical location. This location can be an office, a facility, a meeting room, or just an event. Reasons why social engineering attacks are effective include authority. Threat actors impersonate individuals with power. This is because people, in general, have been conditioned to respect and follow authority figures. Intimidation. Threat actors use bullying tactics. This includes persuading and intimidating victims into doing what they're told. Consensus social proof. Because people sometimes do things that they believe many others are doing, threat actors use others' trust to pretend they are legitimate. For example, a threat actor might try to gain access to private data by telling an employee that other people at the company have given them access to that data in the past. Scarcity. A tactic used to imply that goods or services are in limited supply. Familiarity. Threat actors establish a fake emotional connection with users that can be exploited. Trust. Threat actors establish an emotional relationship with users that can be exploited over time. They use this relationship to develop trust and gain personal information. Urgency. A threat actor persuades others to respond quickly and without questioning. Now that we covered some phishing types of attacks, let's see another category of threats. Denial of service, DOS, attacks. A denial of service, DOS, attack is a malicious attempt to disrupt the normal functioning of a computer system, network, or online service by overwhelming it with a flood of illegitimate traffic. The primary goal of a DOS attack is to render a target system unavailable to its intended users, causing disruptions, downtime, and frustration. These attacks can have significant financial, operational, and reputational consequences for organizations. Key characteristics of DOS attacks. To better understand the concepts and impact of DOS attacks, let's explore some of them. Resource exhaustion. DOS attacks exploit vulnerabilities in a target system's resources, such as network bandwidth, processing power, memory, or storage, causing these resources to become overwhelmed and unavailable to legitimate users. Legitimate traffic overload. Attackers flood the target system with an excessive volume of requests, data packets, or connections, consuming the available resources and making it difficult for legitimate users to access the system. Reflection and amplification. DOS attacks often utilize reflection and amplification techniques, where the attacker sends requests to intermediary servers that then reflect and amplify the traffic towards the target. This magnifies the volume of attack traffic, making it more challenging to mitigate. Protocol exploitation. Attackers may exploit vulnerabilities in network protocols or application layer protocols to overwhelm the target system. This could involve manipulating protocol weaknesses to create congestion or force the system into resource-intensive operations. Botnet utilization. DOS attacks frequently involve the use of botnets, which are networks of compromised computers or devices controlled by the attacker. Coordinating a large number of these compromised devices allows the attacker to launch a distributed and coordinated assault on the target. A particular challenge in this concept is the use of IoT devices or home network devices. Attackers can use connected devices such as connected washing machines, CCTV network, or just your smart television as botnet. IoT security is a huge challenge that we will cover separately in an upcoming module. Zero-day exploit. Some DOS attacks use previously unknown vulnerabilities, 0 days, in the target system's software or hardware. By exploiting these unpatched weaknesses, attackers can disrupt services and evade traditional security measures. Most zero-day exploits are discovered by bounty hunters that perform white-hat pentesting. TCSC London Academy provides another technical training dedicated to penetration testing experts and bounty hunters. You can check the website for more details if you want to be a pentest expert or a bounty hunter. Another concept is spoofing and IP address falsification. Attackers may employ techniques like IP address spoofing to falsify the source of attack traffic. This makes it challenging for the target to identify and filter out malicious traffic, as it appears to originate from legitimate sources. Application layer attacks. DOS attacks can target specific applications or services rather than the entire network infrastructure. This approach involves overwhelming the application with requests or exploiting vulnerabilities in the application code to disrupt its normal functioning. Asymmetric attacks. Asymmetric DOS attacks exploit the asymmetry between the resources required to launch an attack and those needed to defend against it. Attackers capitalize on this imbalance, making it difficult for the target to sustain effective defense mechanisms. Pulsing or wave-like patterns. Some DOS attacks exhibit pulsing or wave-like patterns, where the intensity of the attack traffic fluctuates over time. This dynamic behavior can be challenging for traditional defense mechanisms to predict and counter effectively. Scalability. DOS attacks are often designed to scale in intensity, adapting to the defensive measures implemented by the target. Attackers may increase the volume or change attack vectors to bypass mitigation efforts, requiring continuous adaptation from the defending side. When we talk about defending team, we oftentimes mean response team. Response team is a crucial actor in defending any organization. We will detail the following in an upcoming module. Composition, roles, and responsibilities of a response team. Social engineering. In some cases, DOS attacks may involve social engineering tactics to manipulate individuals within the target organization. This could include spreading misinformation or using psychological tactics to create panic and divert resources from legitimate activities to mitigating the perceived threat. Now that we covered main concepts, let's talk about variants of a DOS attack. First one is distributed denial of service, DDoS. Multiple compromised computers, botnets, are used to launch a coordinated attack on the target. DDoS attacks are more powerful and difficult to mitigate due to the distributed nature of the attack sources that can be located all around the world. Second variant is amplification attacks. Attackers exploit network protocols to amplify the volume of attack traffic, making it appear as if the attack is originating from multiple sources. DNS amplification attacks. This variant involves exploiting vulnerabilities in the domain name system, DNS, to generate a large volume of response traffic to a targeted victim. By sending small requests with spoofed source addresses, attackers trick DNS servers into sending much larger responses to the victim, amplifying the impact of the attack. NTP amplification attacks. Network Time Protocol (NTP) amplification attacks leverage weaknesses in NTP servers to generate amplified traffic towards the target. Similar to DNS amplification, attackers send small requests to NTP servers, which then respond with larger packets, overwhelming the target system. Another variant is SNMP reflection attacks. Simple Network Management Protocol (SNMP) reflection attacks involve exploiting SNMP-enabled devices to generate amplified traffic. By sending SNMP queries with a forged source address to SNMP servers, attackers elicit responses that are larger than the original queries, intensifying the impact on the target. Memcached amplification attacks. Memcached servers, which store data in memory for fast retrieval, can be exploited to amplify DDoS attacks. Attackers send small requests to vulnerable memcached servers, which respond with large datasets, significantly magnifying the volume of attack traffic. HTTP or HTTPS Layer 7 attacks. These attacks target the application layer, Layer 7, of the OSI model, focusing on overwhelming web servers or application resources. Attackers exploit vulnerabilities in web services, exhausting server resources and making the application unresponsive to legitimate users. Slow loris attacks. Slow loris is a type of DDoS attack that exploits the way web servers handle connections. The attacker opens numerous connections to the target server and keeps them open by sending partial requests at a very slow rate. This ties up server resources and prevents it from handling legitimate requests. Synchronize Acknowledge, or SYN-ACK floods. SYN-ACK floods exploit the three-way handshake process of establishing a TCP connection. Attackers send a large number of synchronize requests, but do not complete the handshake, tying up server resources and preventing legitimate connections. UDP reflection attacks. Similar to amplification attacks, UDP reflection attacks involve sending small requests with a forged source address to vulnerable UDP servers. The servers then respond with larger packets, amplifying the volume of attack traffic directed at the target. Smurf attacks. Smurf attacks abuse the Internet Control Message Protocol (ICMP) by sending ICMP echo requests with a spoofed source address to broadcast networks. This causes a flood of responses to the victim, overwhelming its resources and disrupting normal operations. The final variant that we will cover is water torture attacks. Water torture attacks involve sending small and seemingly harmless packets at irregular intervals to the target. While each packet is individually harmful, the cumulative effect can exhaust the target's resources over time, leading to a gradual degradation of services. So far, we discussed DOS attacks, their key characteristics, and the most common variants of this type of threats. Now let's talk about the impact of DOS attacks on organizations. Potential impact of DOS attacks. 1. Service disruption. DOS attacks lead to service unavailability, preventing users from accessing websites, online services, or network resources. 2. Financial loss. Organizations experience financial losses due to reduced productivity, lost sales, and potential penalties for service-level agreements, SLAs, not met. 3. Reputation damage. Extended downtime and service disruptions harm an organization's reputation, eroding customer trust and loyalty. 4. Mitigation costs. Deploying and maintaining infrastructure to mitigate DOS attacks incurs additional costs. Now let's discuss mitigation and prevention measures used by cybersecurity experts. A. Traffic filtering. Implement network and application-level traffic filtering to identify and block malicious traffic patterns. B. Rate limiting. Set limits on the number of requests or connections from a single source to prevent excessive consumption of resources. C. Content distribution networks, CDN. Use CDN to distribute traffic across multiple servers, reducing the impact of attacks on a single server. D. Intrusion detection and prevention systems, IDs, IPS. Deploy IDs, IPS solutions to detect and block abnormal or suspicious traffic patterns. E. Cloud-based DDoS protection services. Utilize cloud-based services that specialize in detecting and mitigating DDoS attacks. F. Network segmentation. Divide networks into segments to contain and isolate the impact of a DOS attack. G. Regular patching. Keep systems and software up to date to mitigate vulnerabilities that could be exploited in attacks. In this lesson, we covered the following topics: malware attacks, phishing attacks, social engineering attacks, and denial of service (DOS) attacks. Stay with us for the next lesson to discuss the potential impact of cyber threats. See you there.